What's up, everybody? Listen, you've been here before. You know what to do. Hit like and subscribe. Turn on your notifications, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davis and Tony Miola, and I'm excited. Well, I'm normally excited, but I'm even more excited this time around because we have a very special guest joining us later in the show, Eddie Pope. Yes, the best defender in U.S. soccer history, at least in my humble opinion. But we can get into that a little bit later. I'm sure he'll agree. Hopefully he'll agree. But we got some transfer news to get into first. But before we get there, Charlie Davies, you just played in the Steve Nash Showdown, and every clip that I saw was you and your team getting scored on. Can you explain yourself and what happened? Because it looked like you got smoked.
Yeah, rough day at the office. One, two. This is when it hit me hard. Is I had my twin boys there watching, and after the game is wrapped up, everyone's celebrating. Hey, great time. They walk up to me and they go, "Dad, did you give it your all?"
No.
And I said, well, no, I did not, and I couldn't because I strained my hamstring in the second game, and I was just on cruise control. And they're like,
wow.
Come on, Dad.
So is the race with McGlynn over? Are we not doing the race anymore? Is that done?
No, I think I'm still good for that.
Even with a sore hamstring.
Yeah, with those sore hammy, I'm good for 20 yards.
So wait, who was on your team? You had Edgar Davids. I saw that.
Yeah. Ali Krieger.
Okay.
We had
I'm just giving you names that you can also put blame on for why you guys got smoked. Just give me more
Hey,
names.
no blame. Absolutely no blame.
Nah, it looked fun though. The energy looked amazing.
It was a lot of fun. Peggy Lewindula, he hadn't played in a minute, so it was good to get Peggy out there. Some Ligue 1 guys.
I saw Grella got magged by Mehdi Bellucci. Twice.
Double.
Now,
yikes.
Grella's usually the one doing that to people.
Yikes.
To see
double
him.
Mag.
And Mehdi also had to entertain people and bring people into it to emphasize the double meg. It was woof. And there was some super talented young girls. I'm talking ballers. So it was an awesome event. Kyle Martino and Steve Nash, they did it right for this one.
Awesome.
Grella said that he was good 99% of the time, and we live in a social media world. But he said he had a sore ankle, and then he sends me a picture of his ankle.
Of course he does. That's a whole bunch of excuses from Mike Grella.
Oh man, his whole texturing is, yeah, bro. I rolled my ankle for 3 minutes in. I heard it crack. I should have stopped playing. He goes, yeah, but it's karma, bro. He goes, we're in the social media world. I played incredible for 99% of the time.
I played incredible. I love that. Mike Grella, peak Mike Grella. All right, let's get into some transfer news. Got some Americans potentially on the move. Big Tone's coming to you first. It looks like Johnny Cardoso is headed to Atletico Madrid for $35 million, or maybe just short of that, 34.
Woo.
I'm pretty surprised by that number in some capacity. That's not to say that he's not worth that. Every player is worth what they're worth, right? What the market's going to pay for them. But do you like this move for him? Let's leave the money aside. Do you just like this move for him from Betis to Atleti?
Look, I kind of think that if you're in this position, and I mean on the field, right, for Cholo Simeone, and he wants you for $35 million, he really sees something in you. So you use the word surprised, but about going there, are you not more surprised about how we came into this Gold Cup thinking he was going to be the guy next to Tyler Adams. Okay, some injuries and all of that stuff, but I thought once he was ready to go, he would be the guy. I'm surprised, Jimmy, that we haven't seen him have a better run with the national team. That's where I'm surprised, because this tells me that a guy like Cholo Simeone and their scouting department, they've seen him in La Liga. We watch him at Real Betis. He plays well week in and week out. So yeah, good for him, man. It's you're going to Atletico Madrid. Okay, they have a little bit of problems right as we sit here today. This is one of the biggest clubs in the world right now, which is always looking to compete at Champions League, right? And some years they're better than others, but massive club for him.
All right, so Cardoso joined Betis from Brazilian side Internacional in January 2024, to give everybody some context. He's registered 5 goals and 3 assists over 45 appearances for the club, and he was one of the players that helped Betis get to, well, they finished 6th last year, but also to the Europa Conference League final where they ended up losing to Chelsea 4-1 in that, but had just come off signing a contract extension with Betis through 2030. I agree with you, though, Big Tones, that we haven't seen that necessarily translate to having success with the national team. Very similar to Malik Tillman in some ways, right? Wow, look what he's doing at PSV, and let's sprinkle some of that when you put on a U.S. jersey, and for whatever reason, Johnny can't figure it out. I almost want to give him the benefit of the doubt here, Charlie, because if you have this type of transfer, I mean, going to Atleti is a big deal. That could be a bit of a distraction behind the scenes, and maybe it's too big of a benefit of a doubt because he's a pro and this is how it goes. But I could see how that could throw you off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling to see the way he's going to break into this starting 11 at Atletico Madrid, because we all love when players can get these big moves. I mean, Atletico Madrid is a top club, and they're always competing for trophies. This is Diego Simeone. I mean, as your manager, it doesn't really get much better as an American going to play for one of the most well-known competitive clubs in world football. But when you look at the guys already in the team that play centrally, is he playing over Rodrigo de Paul? Is he even playing over Conor Gallagher? And then you throw in like a Koke, you throw in Barrios. Is this going to be one of those things where he comes in, he goes there and, he plays cup games, he'll fill in here and there, a substitute off the bench, from playing every single match at Real Betis and being like a starter and counted on with a coach, a manager that you've already built, credit with, and you have someone who trusts you to play you, and all of a sudden you're competing, in obviously Conference League finals, but at least, you're playing competitively to now, you're playing in a team that competes for the La Liga, competes in Champions League. It's a great move, but at the same time, the year before World Cup, is this the right move?
Or at the right time, ultimately.
Right.
Now, for fun fact for everybody, Johnny Cardoso is 3rd in interceptions in Europe's top 5 leagues. So Fede Valverde was 1st with 87. Ryan Gravenberch from Liverpool was 2nd with 83. And then Johnny Cardoso in 3rd, 79. Tchouaméni from Real Madrid was 74 in 4th. So when you talk about those advanced metrics or stats or whatever you want to look at to help try to put your put your puzzle together, and obviously Diego Simeone's high on him. Again, that's a significant amount of money to splash. And so, yeah, I agree with you, Tones. I think that he clearly saw something and he's worth taking the risk on. But I also agree with you, Chuck. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to equate to more playing time, and it's nice to be trusted and being confident.
Atletico Madrid, 35 million is obviously a lot of money, but in this day and age of football, 35 million could be seen as a depth piece, not necessarily a starting central midfielder that you're going to be counting on. And I see some comments. He's an old head. Rodrigo de Paul is 31 years old. He's not an old head. He's still arguably in his prime. So it is. There's a lot of competition, and that's what you get when you play with the big clubs. You want to throw your name in the hat of being able to play amongst top footballers. But man, I don't know if the timing is right with this move ahead of such an important World Cup.
Yeah, this is the 7th highest transfer. It looks like right in there with Vitolo, with Rodrigo, who they paid 35 for. Morata, when he came, little different error. Conor Gallagher was 42 million. So this is not João Felix was the highest, 127 million, and Alvarez was 75. So it's not a team that has a bunch of players in that they've paid 35 million for. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to wait to see.
They must see something.
Yeah, 100%. And once this becomes official and we get to hear from Diego Simeone, I look forward to hearing how he describes Johnny and his role for the club moving forward. All right, next one. This will be a fun one because we know how Chuck feels about the championship in England. Patrick Agyemang is linked to Ipswich Town, who just got relegated from the Premier League under highly rated manager Kieran Kieran McKenna. And then Derby County is also another team that's interested in him. They finished 19th in the championship last season. They could use some goals. Ipswich just lost Liam Delap to Chelsea. Agyemang has 8 goals and 2 assists with Charlotte this season in all competitions. He's got 5 goals in 9 games with the US men's national team. And Chuck, I'm going to let you, as a resident number 9, Patrick Agyemang did the championship. Nothing set in stone. Just it's preliminary here. But there's some rumors going around. Do you like this move for him in particular?
I do like the move in the sense that he's going to Europe and he's playing a lot of games and he's going to get those matches. The intensity, obviously, and the pressure mounts. If I had to choose right now for Patrick Agyemang to stay at Charlotte or go to the championship, where they're probably going to have to pay a significant fee to bring him over. So he's going to be counted on to play week in and week out in the championship. A lot of matches, which we talk about him still developing. He's got a lot of room to grow. I like the move. Now, is this the best move in football history for Patrick Agyemang? No, but it's a step up from what he's playing in with Charlotte. And I love the reps. I love the pressure. I think the competition will benefit him and benefit his chances to have an impact in making the World Cup roster for 26.
Okay, and then using that as a segue to your thoughts, Big Tones, I actually would love for him to go to Ipswich. I think Kieran McKenna is a top manager. At some point, he'll be managing the Premier League. Maybe they get right back. There's just something about the Ipswich. They got a taste of what it was like to be in the Premier League. And now they can they probably have more than enough budget to figure out a way to get right back up. Whereas Derby, that feels like more of a project. Now, maybe that would be better. Maybe he'd be the main guy. Their goal scorers, when I look at their team from last year, you have Ibu Adams, 29-year-old, had 6 goals. And then Jerry Yates, who usually plays more of a second striker, he had 10 goals for them last year. After that, after 10 and 6 goals, it drops off to like 4 and 3, and then they kind of spread it out. So it could be a good situation.
They need goals.
They need Derby needs goals, but that could be we talked about this with Josh Sargent in Norwich. Like, is it going to be when they were in the Premier League, where he's just like they're chasing a lot? There's not a lot of opportunity. They're not maintaining a lot of possession. Not to say
in the there's much more parity in the Champions League. In the championship, it's not as if you got the top 5, 6, and then everyone is playing long ball. I think every team has a real chance at winning the match. There's not like the discrepancies that you see in the Premier League. So I don't, even though they might not have as much quality as some of the top teams in the championship, I still think you're still going to get your opportunities, you're still going to get chances.
The thing that excites me the most, if it is Ipswich under McKenna, is that you remember when they came up from League One, they were the highest scoring team in the league. When they got promoted again, they were the highest scoring team in the league. So a guy that coaches a way where he's looking to get chances for strikers, right? So we haven't seen that in the past with some of the strikers. Obviously, it didn't work out in the Premier League, but he knows how to manage in this league. He probably knows how to manage in the Premier League too. Just didn't have enough, guns in that group. So this could be a really good move if that is the place that he goes. And that's where one of the reports is. So we'll see how it turns out. But he's gonna be out of MLS here really, really soon.
Jimmy, the thing that I would add for Patrick Agyemang is when you move to Europe, especially as an American. And his first time playing in Europe, because he's a late bloomer. I think the benefit not only of playing so many matches with the pressure of playing in the championship, but I think the individual coaching he will get working on his first touch, working on hold up play, and maybe sometimes playing in those tight spaces, but playing to his strengths. I think that's where we're going to see him grow a lot, because it's a lot of high volume reps, because you play so many games. Training in the team format is maybe not so much or as competitive as you'd like throughout the week, but the individual training, a lot of that of working on sharpening his skills and developing those skills, I think will really benefit him.
All right, so I think we all think that would be a welcome move if it does happen. We'll obviously keep everybody posted. These are some reports that are coming out. All right, last story before we end up getting to our very special guest, Eddie Pope, on the other side of the break. Lyon from France have been relegated to League Two due to some financial issues or lack of finances. There's a lot of different ways to slice this, but Lyon confirmed in an official statement that they will appeal this incomprehensible decision. Now, back in November, the acronym is DNCG, which is a long French acronym for the people that manage finances. They handed Lyon a provisional administrative relegation to League Two. And would observe a transfer ban in January following an audit of their finances. Now Lyon are owned by John Textor, an American, and he also had ownership in Crystal Palace. He sold those to the Jets owner just this past week. So there's a lot of movement going on behind the scenes. Now that relegation was provisionally based, so they didn't go down right away. Now, what's interesting about Lyon is they have a rich history. They won Liga 7 times between 2001 and 2008, but apparently they didn't satisfy their financial situation before the end of the season, and the French authorities in this area decided that they're going to get relegated to League Two. So what does that mean? Well, Tanner Tessmann and Matt Turner both play on this team, Big Tone. So yeah, if they get relegated to League Two, I wonder if they have options or clauses or outs in their contracts.
Wait. Turner's move has been official?
Yeah. Matt's not.
I don't think Matt Turner's move is not official.
Thank you for that clarification. So that might actually stall not only his move, but maybe other potential moves that they're trying to.
If you're Matt Turner, you're not going to League Two. Yeah. I'll tell you right now. That's when you do a U-turn right away.
And are you going to Lyon? Period. If you're Matt Turner, knowing all of this is going on, even if they're in Ligue 1 next year. I mean, the guy. Yeah, I see the quote there from Greg. He can't catch a break. He's got to make his own breaks. I mean, wouldn't you be scared if you know all this is going on and this is the club you're going to, even if they stay in Ligue 1 with financial issues? Hell, I'd be a little bit scared.
Yeah. Nothing is signed. There's not anything that's signed, sealed, and delivered. He is not an official Lyon player. So, if anything, as soon as you see this, if you're Matt Turner, knowing how important this year is, especially given that you are now the backup goalkeeper in Gold Cup, and that Matt Freese has taken your position, just simply on merit of playing time, you need to play and you need to be in a good situation. So going from where you are right now in Nottingham Forest, because you're on loan at Crystal Palace, going to a club that just got relegated, that is, historic in French football. So the fans, there's going to be just a weird feeling in general. The ownership group not getting their finances right. Like Lyon should not be in this situation.
Yeah.
Because it's not that they played bad and are getting relegated. This is financial relegation. They actually performed really well. Some big financial pieces that they have that they can move. This is terrible. This is just absolutely terrible.
And we're talking Turner, who now nice to look at his situation. Tanner Tessmann's actually on the team. And so I wonder how that impacts what he wants to do. I know there was some smoke around before he left Venezia that maybe Atalanta were interested in him. Roma could be interested. I know there were some German teams that potentially were interested in him at some point, Leipzig, Stuttgart, some others. So there's other options for him, but I just wonder what that means, not only for Tessmann, but that whole squad. I mean, what do you do if you're that whole squad? Who's going to stick around and try to get them right back up, and who's going to bolt? That's going to be pretty interesting to see, or not just sign, like Matt Turner in particular. So obviously, we'll keep everybody abreast of what's happening. Lyon clearly think, and the players clearly think, that they're going to be optimistic they can win this in appeal, and this is more just a slap on the wrist or to send a message to get your stuff together. But we'll have to wait and see. All right, we're going to take our first break. Call what you want. When we come back, Eddie Pope is going to be joining us, and I cannot wait to talk to him. It's been so long since we've seen his beautiful face, so don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back into Call What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Miola, and we're going to welcome in our special guest. He is the pride of High Points, played college soccer at North Carolina, was one of the state's greatest players. He obviously was a decorated MLS player, played in 3 World Cups for the U.S., and now he is the sporting director for the Carolina Core and MLS Next Pro. It's Eddie Pope. Eddie, great to see you.
Good to see you, man. I don't know if I can match your energy, but It's definitely great to see you.
Listen, you were my favorite center back to play with, so we're gonna get that easy rapport going. Yeah. So let's just start with what you're doing first right now. Carolina Core sporting director, getting to see the game from a different level. You and I got to see the game from an MLS and US men's national team perspective for a long time. How does the game look from this position in MLS Next Pro?
Well, I think it looks great, and I do think that MLS Next Pro is a great stepping stone to MLS. I think it's a much-needed sort of, entry level for some players, especially going from MLS Next. There's not that huge jump to MLS. They've got somewhere that they can go apply their trade a little bit, get more coaching, get more training, get more games, and make that transition a little bit easier. So from my standpoint, I just think it's a great move from MLS to provide MLS Next Pro.
Has any of this been tough, making this transition into sort of this part of the game where you're sort of, I don't want to say feeder program, but I don't have a better word, right, for the league and growing, growing these players to get to the next level? What's been the most difficult part?
I think, just having the understanding, as Jimmy said earlier, for all of us on this, we've played at high levels, and you have to understand that, the players, they haven't been there yet. And so your expectations have to be measured. I think there's a lot more coaching than I realized, working with players. Some things you think that they know, but they just don't know it yet. So I think having patience with them, helping them understand that everybody's journey is different. Everybody wants that, I want to play for a year and now I want to move on and go to the next level. So really helping them manage their own expectations has been a little bit of a challenge. So I'd say those things. But I think the talent is there. The talent level's really, really good when we're playing these matches. I'm watching games. It's really a positive thing, and I've really enjoyed it.
Eddie, I think what strikes me most about you is your high IQ of the game. Obviously, you were an incredible center back. But you've done a lot. You've been an agent. You've worked with the Players Association. Now you're as a sporting director. So you've kind of had an experience in every facet of the game. How has that helped you in your role today? And where do you think the game can still improve with MLS Next Pro?
Well, each of those things have certainly helped me sort of become a chief sporting officer. I think especially the business side of it, with working at the Players Association, understanding the collective bargaining agreement, the rules, contracts, the way they're supposed to look, what should be in them, what shouldn't be in them, what's fair to players. As the game is growing, how do the players also grow with the game? And then there's the other side of the fence. But now, you have to understand what owners want, what ownership desires. They have financial responsibilities as well. They have employees that they have to take care of. So I think it's all kind of helped me understand both sides of the fence. And without, I would say, the Players Association and being an agent, I don't know that I would have understood it all.
Right.
Now, Eddie, I just to piggyback off of that, given where you are in the quote unquote pyramid of the game, what do you determine success as the chief sporting officer, and what do your owners expect or define as success? Is it moving players along? Is it winning? Is it both? Is both even possible when you're kind of
how's it weighted?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious.
Red dot and green dot. No, isn't it?
Yeah.
we got Luis Robles joining the show. No,
that's the question, right? And I think for each team it can be different. I think in MLS Next Pro, obviously we want to make sure that we're developing players and moving them on to the next level. We're an independent team, meaning we aren't tied to any MLS clubs. So our goal is to, at the end of the day, try to move some of our players on to MLS clubs. Every time that they play, we tell the players, you're showcasing your skills, your talent to other MLS teams. So at the end of the day, there's a goal that's certainly reachable for them. And then, of course, your ownership, they want to develop players, but they also want to win games. We're fortunate that we have a fantastic home crowd. So we want to make sure that we're winning games at home, that the fans are enjoying themselves. We're creating a fantastic game day atmosphere, all those things. So it's the answer to it is really both. But as you guys alluded to, it's really hard to do both. And so we're trying to figure out what that balance is and how we get that right.
Eddie, what's the sort of off the field type of stuff at your club, right? Because we know when you're a pro, there's training, and then there's the rest of life to continue to be a pro, even when you're not staying on the field, right? How much of like the education part of it is your club offering to some of these young players with regards to when we talk about taking care of yourself like a pro?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, one of the things that you certainly have to teach players who are coming out of MLS Next is that it's not a club soccer environment anymore, that now you're a pro, hence the pro in the end. And it is difficult for some of them, to help them understand that how you take care of yourself, that you have to train every day. There's a difference between being injured and being hurt and training hurt, eating right, getting enough sleep, not staying up late, all those things that they sometimes don't realize affect them over the course of an entire season. So there's an educational part for that as well. And I think our club does a fantastic job of some off the field programming, whether it's financial stuff. And I mean, we do that as a club individually. Off the field financing, it could be how to make meals at home. We've had chefs who've come in to try to help some of the younger players understand what they need to eat. So there are a lot of things like that we're trying to help them with. Some of the players who maybe don't speak English, just trying to get English lessons, and things like that. So we try to be somewhat holistic and have a holistic approach. But I think the biggest thing that players at this sort of stage need to learn is how to become a pro and what that looks like.
Eddie, I'm curious in terms of like difficulties recruiting, because Carolina Core is not an MLS club or a pathway to a direct MLS, club. You look at North Carolina FC and USL. How much are they trying to take from the same pool of players that you are recruiting from, and what does that dynamic look like? What are the strengths of playing with the Carolina Core versus going the USL route?
Yeah, I mean it's a and don't forget Charlotte down to the south as well, right? So it's like we're all sort of fighting over these groups of players. Certainly we have MLS Next, so we have 13s, 14s, we're adding 15s. So we don't quite have a full academy as of yet. That will smooth things out a little bit. But before that happens, right, we're fighting for the same young players. And, we have a great scout in Andy Williams, who all of you know from the Jamaican national team. He's done a fantastic job. He was at Real Salt Lake as a scout for almost a decade. He is just in this car all the time, beating the streets. And so we're trying to find different pockets of players. And Jim, we talked about earlier, it could be USL 1 players, it could be USL 2 players, it could be players in Europe who maybe fallen out with their teams in second, third, fourth divisions. American kids who were in the draft who maybe fell out of the draft a little bit. And of course, kids who are in academies, maybe they're not happy at their academy. And their team is willing to let them go. And then we have open tryouts as well. I would say one of our best players came in a local open tryout.
Oh, wow.
We often talk about the Latino players who are off in their own leagues playing, and it's hard to really connect with them by having that sort of free pathway. We've pulled in some kids from there. So it really is just a variety of different avenues that we've been able to find players.
Well, Eddie, we're thrilled that you're in the trenches trying to make the game as good as it possibly can be, especially in an area of the country where you're from, which I know that growing up probably didn't have a lot of the games, similar to even in my area in LA where you think there'd be a lot.
Hey, stop that. I grew up in New Hampshire. I don't want to hear nothing about you guys not having the game. Stop it right now.
All right, fine. All right. But let's pivot to the national team. Eddie Pope, listen, Tim Ream is still playing. He's our age. Do you feel like you could lace him up and still get out there when you see Tim Ream doing his thing, or what?
What do you mean he's our age?
I was going to say.
You're in your 50s, Jimmy. You don't stop. He's not your age.
That's really old, Charlie. That's old when you're in your 50s, bro.
I think, it's amazing how his age. What is he, 38 or something like that now? So, for him to still be playing is fantastic, and he's still doing a great job, and providing that sort of balance and leadership, stability to the back line. So it's been enjoyable to watch him play.
Okay, wait, I'm jumping in here. Do you feel like defending is lost art? Because I feel the nuances and subtleties, it just feels like it's not the same as it used to be, Eddie Pope. And maybe I'm getting nostalgic and I'm wanting to see a game that at the level that you and I were playing at, or seeing the game. I shouldn't put myself in the same category.
Yeah, because VAR has definitely messed up the game, a little bit.
I would have definitely benefited from some offside technology, offside line technology. But do you feel like overall, maybe you've even seen it with Carolina Core as well, just like the nuances and subtleties of it could be collective, could be individual. What are your thoughts on defending being a lost art?
Well, it does seem like, us defenders from a little while ago are saying that quite a bit. I think one of the biggest things is that defenders are required to be better, so much better on the ball now, because we're playing out of the back. Everything's out of the back. And I think teams, which makes sense, you have to spend so much time on teaching players that and on doing that. And so maybe some of that time has been taken away from, good old fashioned defending. But so it's a give and take a little bit, right? Because defenders are so much better on the ball in their passing, their, with the ball at their feet, the decision making, the speed of their decision making, which is what we try to teach as well. It's really difficult, and it requires a lot of time for defenders to be able to do that. And so maybe there's a little bit of it lost. But I do think that the game has changed so much that if you can't do that nowadays, you're going to be defending quite a bit, because you're going to be pumping goal kicks up the field and turning around and defending. So maybe there's a little bit of that to it.
Appreciate that.
Eddie, when I'm guessing you follow a national team like we do, and you're watching these games in the Gold Cup, you've seen what's gone on over the last, let's call it, year or so. With all of that said, who are the center backs right now in this group that get you excited?
Well, I actually think defensively, I feel good about who we have. I do like Tim Ream, because, and one of the reasons I do is because I think he is probably the best passer with the group. Now, maybe athletically he's not there anymore because he's a little bit older, but I don't think he's lost too much of a step. But like Anthony Robinson, McKenzie, obviously Chris Richard has done well over the past several games. Scully, I mean, there's I think our defenders, we're in a good spot, to be fair. And I think we have a lot of athleticism back there. I think we have a lot of guys who are super smart on the ball when they're playing out. But like I said, I think Ream provides a little bit of a balance, and we'll see how he fits in with the rest of the group.
When we talk about Ream, I absolutely agree with you in terms of his passing ability. Chris Richards, I think, has made the most improvement over the course of maybe two or 3 years, especially this year. I think light speed jumped from playing so many matches at Crystal Palace. Yeah. But in terms of young center backs that you're seeing across the country, right? You're scouting, you're seeing a lot of players. Where do you think they have improved, and what would you like to see more of? And I think this kind of goes with Jimmy's saying, it's a lost art. Do you feel that center backs are just being developed in a different way because the game has changed, or what could they focus on?
Well, they've improved on the ball, and I think they're super comfortable under pressure. I feel like a lot more than I was. You automatically have to know how to deal with the press. Everybody's watching you, the goalkeeper turns and passes it to you, and people come flying at you, and you have to be able to deal with that. And so I think across the board, defenders have gotten a lot better at that, and they're a lot, calmer under pressure. On the flip side, I think that because the formations have changed a little bit, a lot of defenders aren't used to defending 1v1 for 90 minutes plus.
Hey, preach.
There's usually just one striker up there. One guy covers and the other guy has a little bit, one guy is marking and then there's some cover behind, and they're uncomfortable a lot of times just remaining 1v1 for an entire game. And if you have a system where there's 3 center backs now, when they're out wide, center backs, we don't really want to go out wide. We like to stay in the middle when we can. So I think, to me, one of the lost arts is just that good old fashioned 1v1 defending. You've got a striker for the whole game. You don't want him to score, end of story. And everyone else does their thing. And I think that, again, is a result of the different types of formations that you see. You don't see a ton of 2 strikers up top. And when you do, you typically see defenders struggling with that formation.
Yeah, same thing. We need more attacking players who can run 1v1, because the same thing, it's the balance is off. You have a lot of, target strikers, and they sit there, they're back to goal, and they just lay off, and no one wants to run at you one-on-one.
Yeah, I just heard Eddie Pope smoking a cigar if he was playing this day and age on the field. I got 2 guys got to mark 1. This is too easy, man.
Hey, I tell my defenders, one of you could just pull up a chair and get a box of popcorn and watch the other one defend. So, yeah, for sure.
So there's always a lot of comparing and contrasting, especially from us U.S. men's national team alums. So we want to ask you this question because we've had this debate on the show before. Do you think, or let me say it like this, how do you think the 2002 World Cup team would do against this current iteration of the men's national team? We'll even give it the 2022 World Cup team because there's a different type of bite, I think, and intensity that 02 team had that maybe now it's starting to kind of
/ experience.
And experience. yeah. Obviously a lot older and had
grown,
been around.
Grown men versus.
Yes, against men that were becoming grown men, maybe not completely there yet, but they had to play in those big games to get that grown men status. How do you think the 02 team would be against the 2022 team?
It's hard to say, right? I mean,
hot seat.
I think
diplomat alert.
Somebody's a chief sporting officer. That's a great start to that.
I think the difference is that and maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I think we had a good mix. I think we had some MLS guys who had a lot of experience. We also had some young guys, right, by the name of like a Landon Donovan, DeMarcus Beasley, John O'Brien, who had been in a residency program, which, right, was a big difference back then. They played a lot of games together. They had great coaching and like a John Ellinger. They had a great environment that we hadn't really seen before. Those kids were young. They were fearless. They remind me a little bit of Luna a little bit. And so I think that for myself, being mostly an MLS guy, right, I had to depend more on just grit, toughness, working hard, running hard, fighting, jumping, all of those things. And nowadays, I mean, look at, like you said, Chris Richards, who's coming from Crystal Palace, who won an FA Cup. They have so much more talent, so to speak, that maybe they don't have to rely on some of those other things. And it's just about getting that balance right, because as a group, as they add all of those other elements into it, I think we'll be better as a country. So I think that's the biggest difference between those teams. And then you have to layer in like the Reynas and obviously Tony was on that team and Tony Santa, who was playing in Germany. And I mean, we had a good mixture of players across the board. So some really tough, gritty guys, super talented young guys, and then guys who had some European experience. And then after you have all of that, you need some things to go your way. And we were fortunate in that.
Man, I'll tell you what, I've described Eddie Pope to a lot of people for a long time. I used words like elegant, read the game. No, seriously, I'm telling you the truth, man. Not tough and gritty. Like, you had all of those things, but those aren't the first things that jumped off the page when I talk about your game. But it's good to hear you mention some of those things, because I think we still need them. When you look at this team, we're obviously okay. We're having a good couple of weeks here in the Gold Cup so far with 3 wins, but there were 4 losses after that. Like, where's your meter as far as, do I worry about this team? Do I like the direction they're going? Like, where are you on that meter?
I'm not worried yet. I'd say that, look, I mean, obviously the big debate, right, was whether or not people, players should have come back and things like that. I think that if you were able to rewind the clock a year ago and ask the core group, hey, should we, or does it make sense for us to get as many games as we possibly can together before a World Cup? Oh, and there's a new coach. Should we get as many training sessions as we possibly can with him and games with him? Everyone would have raised their hand and said yes. And at the end of the day, that's probably the real answer, right? Whether people come back or they don't come back, that's probably the real answer. And then you have fewer games, obviously, because we're the host kind of out of the gate a little bit here. So they know their team. So I think we have to give them some grace in that. They know the group. They know what they're capable of. The only thing I would add to that is when you don't show up, right, you give other people opportunity. So you have Tillman, who's now started to blossom a little bit. And so as an example, and you never know where you might end up when it's time to make the final selection here. So I think that it's good in that some players that could maybe really add to the group got some minutes. And I think that that's a positive thing. And to play devil's advocate a little bit, maybe some guys who, a large group of guys who maybe wanted a rest or needed a rest, does that help? And that some of the other players that we all say, these players get run into the ground internationally. Did we end up with fresher legs at the end of it all? So it remains to be seen.
So, Eddie, we're heading into obviously a critical year for a lot of these guys who maybe some club situations are not as strong as some of the others and are looking to make moves. You're a sporting director now. What would be more important for you if you were, let's say, Matt Crocker, Agyemang, Mauricio Pochettino, and you got guys who could make these moves to bigger clubs, playing, more competitive training matches. I don't know necessarily you're going to be starting 11 versus staying put, and maybe it's MLS, maybe it's a smaller club in Europe or second division. Would you rather them stay where they are to play, or would you rather them take that chance to play with bigger names, bigger competitions, but maybe not necessarily get the 90 minutes every week?
Well, if I were being selfish, I would say they got to play. Because if they don't play, then they're useless, right? There's no way they're going to be able to jump into a World Cup and they haven't played a full season or half a season, rather, right? It's too hard for them. They won't be in shape. Their touch will be off. They'll be spending, the first 2 games trying to get back on track again. And that would be if I were being selfish, right? Now, as we all love the game, we would say what's best for them individually. It's probably to move somewhere bigger where they are around big names, big club, Champions League, and all those things. We know that that's probably good for their individual careers
and for salary.
Right? Of course, right? It's your career can only be so long, but for someone to go to a big club, it's the World Cup's coming up, and they're only going to play 4 to 5 games between now and the World Cup. Is going to be really, really difficult for that player to be able to just flip that switch and be sharp, because he's going to be playing against players who've been on the field for 90 minutes throughout that first half of the season. So, the latter half of the season. So I just feel like for some guys, it's a tough decision for them, but they got to make a decision as to whether or not they want to be on that starting 11 when that first whistle blows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that match sharpness, earning that trust, especially from the coaches and your teammates.
Yes.
It's really, really important, as we all know. All right, Eddie, part of our tradition here, we appreciate you coming on and sharing some time with us. Jersey swaps. We need to know your best ever jersey swap. Now, it could be a story where you asked somebody and they gave you the finger wag.
No one's doing that to Eddie. I'll tell you that right now.
Nobody's giving that. So we won't even bring up that part. Who's your best jersey swap in your career?
Well, I wasn't ready for that one. I'd probably say Materazzi.
Ooh, nice.
Because I got red carded that game, and I can't remember if he did too. I think he did. I don't know. Anyway,
U.S. Italy, the 06 World Cup.
Yes.
So no, they lost De Rossi elbowed McBride in the face.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the tunnel after the game, he came to it's a little bit, well, it's funny to me, maybe not in front of him, but he came to our locker room and was somebody like, "Hey, he's looking for you. And I was like, "Why is he looking like what? Like, he was looking for me." And he wants to exchange jerseys. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, this is incredible." And he goes, "Oh, I'm just looking for all of the number 23s that I play against." So I exchanged with him, of course, and I still have that, okay? And then I find out literally last week that he has 23 because he's a huge Jordan fan and loves UNC, and they have some weird relationship with UNC where they've been to the school, they've done this, they've done that. So interesting story, but wow. I do have the jersey. So, and I was going to see him next week, and I was going to have him sign it, but
as you should.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story. And that was actually before the whole headbutting stuff with Zidane, which happened in the World Cup final of that year. So it was like pre-crazy Materazzi. Eddie Pope, thank you so much for your time. Continued success with Carolina Core. We wish you the best of luck currently right now in the season and obviously moving forward. And we're going to have you back on at some point before the World Cup kicks off next summer. Eddie Pope, everybody.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're going to take our next break and call what you want. When we come back, we're going to get into some Gold Cup stuff because that's what we do here on your favorite Average a Good show. Don't go anywhere.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
All right, welcome back in to Call It What You Want. I'm Conrad Dino alongside Chuck Wagon and Big Tones. Let's do a little debrief. Eddie Pope, great to see him. It had been a while, and I'm so excited that he is doing what he's doing, because it's important for us former players, I think, to trickle back into the system and give back in a meaningful way, which all three of us have done and will continue to do. So it's cool to see Eddie. He had been doing it, but now he's really in the trenches, leading the team, which I think is very cool. Any thoughts to step out to you from what he said, Big Tones?
Yeah, the one that sticks out, I don't know his exact term, but if you're not playing, you're not worth anything, right? I'm
You're useless.
You're useless. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Eddie Pope says players are uselseless. That's the quote.
But how true is that? Like, I mean, we can talk about these big moves. We were talking about Johnny a little bit earlier. It's great. Atletico Madrid is great, and I actually think because of the money, they clearly think he's good enough to play. But if you don't play, for me, with regards to the national team, you are useless, right? You shouldn't be in a World Cup if you're not playing, in my opinion. And man, he nailed it for me. But how great to see him, man!
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome. And I love the fact that he's still in the game. Like now he's really affecting the game, right? He's really affecting young players, which is really cool.
Yeah, imagine being coached by Eddie Pope. That's awesome. That's a dream come true. I got to live that because he get to coach me as a center back partner, and that's how I learned to be even better than I was. Let's talk, though, and I want to pivot in this. This is a good segue into Yunus Musah with regard to not playing for your particular club. And Chuck, I want you to have the first crack at this, because AC Milan sporting director Iglitare said, this is a quote, "I consider Yunus Musah an excellent player, but we are looking for profiles with characteristics that fit the project we have with Coach Maxi Allegri. We are seeking deep line midfielders for a 3-man midfield. Musah doesn't have these characteristics. He can play in a 2 or 3-man midfield with different characteristics. This is the real reason why we want to do something different."
Oof.
Wow.
Oof.
Well, at least there's no
I know what this
area.
means.
Very clear that he needs to find a new situation, which I think we were all kind of saying maybe it is time for him to find a space. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, I would say Allegri did this to Weston McKennie as well, and Weston still figure out a way to be influential and play every match. But this is writing on the wall, and this is also in a way bad business, because they're lowering the value, because they're telling the world that we are moving on from Yunus Musah, that he's available. This isn't we got a young prized asset, and we still like him. We play him, but if you give us a good offer, we might consider it. This is he's available for anybody that wants him. Now, Yunus Musah, we know is very talented, but we would say his Milan stint didn't go very well, and that also affected his U.S. men's national team role and the way that he played with the U.S. men's national team, because he wasn't sharp. I mean, the best we saw Yunus Musah was in that World Cup in 2022, especially in that England game, but also in that Nations League when they absolutely killed CONCACAF, when they beat Mexico 3-0, and then they beat Canada 2-0 in the final. But we haven't really seen him progress in the way that we all had hoped. So what we can all say right now is Yunus Musah needs to find the perfect club for him. And that's where he's going to be playing every week. I think he needs to take a step down from playing at the top clubs in Europe. We're talking about teams that are in the Europa League, and that's great. Still playing every match, but he needs to find the right fit. A team that needs him and needs his skill set to be an 8, which I think we all think is his best position. He's not a 6, and he's not a 10. And he's certainly not a winger.
Here's my counter argument. In October, November, December of last year under Thiago Motta, and then you go all the way through to Champions League in Madrid against Real Madrid, where he was playing.
No, you're not Fonseca.
No. This when I'm saying when he played for Thiago, Fonseca. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. When he played at the beginning of the year, he was really good, and we were talking about him when Conceição came in. That this is his time now to step it up. So we're like 6 months ish 6 months away from where he was arguably playing some of the best football and getting into the Milan squad on a regular basis, right? So it's really weird how this thing fell off under Conceição. Conceição is about the fighting, and I have a feeling this is what Allegri is going to be like too, and I could see why he doesn't fit in, which then, in turn, if you think about Juventus and Allegri's last 2 years at Juventus, and all of a sudden I start thinking, like, how does this hurt Christian Pulisic too? Because it's not free-flowing football. It's, I mean, thump the ball. I was at that. I lived that Coppa Italia final. I guess that was 2024. And I felt bad for the ball every time Juventus had it, because the ball had to go to the hospital. It was like watching a championship game in England where they were just thumping it forward. So he doesn't fit what Allegri wants to do. It's too bad, because I thought he was growing into this team under foot. That's the best he played with the team. So this is going to be really interesting to see. Charlie, I'm interested that you think he needs to move down to like a Europa League team. Type scenario.
Well, that, or, even like a team like Como, if Cesc Fabregas is a manager, to play in a team where the manager can get the most out of you. So I'm thinking, if he stayed in Serie A, because he already has that experience, he's proven he can be successful in that league. The consistency wasn't there, and neither was the consistency from the head coaches of Milan. So I don't think it would be a tough sell to find another club in Serie A that's mid-table, upper echelon mid-table, that would take a chance on Yunus Musah. But
there was already some smoke around Napoli and Antonio Conte maybe looking at Yunus Musah.
Yeah, but again, what kind of
it's still spot starting potentially, but there'll be multiple competitions. I agree with you. It goes back into different conversations we already had. I want to talk to you guys both about kind of Yunus Musah overall. I mean, because he doesn't have a defined position. I mean, yes, we can say 8, but he can do the 6. He can do a little bit of the 10. He can play wing back. He can play right back. I mean, he's kind of a jack of all trades.
But he's not, because he's not an outside player. His skill set, his physical profile is a central player. He is not a winger. He's not an outside player.
I don't know if he's gotten any better, though, as a central player. I feel like because he gets moved around a lot, I want him to go to a club where he's going to be in the same position every game, being the best that he possibly can at that. So he can be great at one position,
100%,
being just kind of good at all the other ones. Do we on the same page with that?
Yeah,
100%.
100% with that. Yeah.
So that's where I don't know. That gets into a youth soccer conversation too, about there is something to be said for being really good at one particular position and trying to master that position. And I feel like Yunus has been moved around so much, and obviously played for a ton of coaches in different teams. Like when he comes to the national team, Mauricio Pochettino puts him right back, So he, if he had owned it, if he was like the number 1, number 8 for us, it would be so clear. Like, yeah, Yunus Musah, that's his spot. Kind of how we see Tyler Adams. Like when he's healthy, he's our 6. And so, yeah, I wonder if him kind of being pretty good at a lot of things and not being great at one is now working against it in some ways, where it used to be somewhat of a tool that I thought worked for him. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling at this point.
Hey,
but,
Tony, what do you think? What do you think of, like, in Jimmy, Frankfurt, a club like Frankfurt? They're obviously a little bit better than your Europa League because they've qualified for Champions League for next season. But that's a team that you feel, okay, maybe he could break in there, Bundesliga, be a consistent starter in the Bundesliga for one of the teams that's always competing in the Europa League or Champions League. I feel like that would be a good spot playing in the Bundesliga.
There's three. Yeah, that would be a good spot. So there's 3 teams that come to mind, and I'm just thinking Serie A. You tell me what you think. A team like Atalanta, a team like Fiorentina, and if Pioli goes there, he has already had him. He was growing as a player, and then the other team is Como, right? Under
under
they
Fabregas would be amazing.
Yeah, if he's still there, Fabregas by the time this summer's over, which is seemingly going to be really difficult. But those 3 teams come to mind. The rest in Italy, Parma, maybe. They're a counter-attacking team. But I'm just thinking of teams that – and Chuck, the only reason I say that because people have seen him have a little bit of success in Serie A. He's been there. He understands the league. Now, if you go, and he speaks the language, by the way. Now, if you go to Germany, like you're adding all of these things like a year before the World Cup, and our fear, right, is always like Eddie Pope was talking about. Man, do they settle in by the time the World Cup? Is he going to be ready? You know what I mean? So you're adding all of these other elements to it that might make it difficult for him.
I see, in comments, Dalton Harris. Dalton, respect you, always chirping, chiming in. I love how engaged you are in the podcast. But I gotta say, he asked, why would he be a central player? What makes him a good central player? What makes Yunus Musah a great central player? He's very similar to Darlington Nagbe in the way that he can dribble out of problems. He can problem solve with dribbling, which is such an underrated quality in this day and age. He's great at anticipation and winning second balls. We've seen him sometimes have great games as a 6 because he's not afraid to tackle. He's fearless. He's good at receiving the ball from a center back and evading that first challenge on the press, so he can break the press dribbling, which is also a rare quality from a number 6. We've seen him as an 8, being able to link up. When we look at Yunus Musah's strengths, it's obviously his vision, his dribbling ability, and his ability to anticipate. Where he lacks the quality that we want him to have is being decisive with the final ball. Whether it's the finish, whether it's the killer ball in between the lines to find someone who's going to have a direct line to goal. That's typically where we're saying, man, we need more of. It's a lot of side to side or being that option which is needed in a midfield 3, just like Darlington Nagbe, incredible player, but obviously still needs to develop. That's why he needs to be central, in my opinion. He doesn't have the pace that you need as a winger. He's not the end line to end line type of guy in terms of the fitness that you need at the highest intensity. Like when you look at a Hakimi, for instance, or a Dumfries, guys who can get end to end, have these incredible engines, the pace and the intensity. Those are the type of guys you want on the outside. And he's not a winger that's going to be dribbling you 1v1 and then play that killer cross or with an epic finish. That's why essentially I think he makes sense.
Yeah, and as a reminder, Ivis is telling this in our private chat. He's only 22, so still a lot of room to grow. I think what's interesting, I never actually equated this to Yunus Musah before, but because he's so good at dribbling out of pressure, it's like that side of his game is almost overdeveloped. And passing out of pressure or making that final pass has been underdeveloped because he's been so reliant on dribbling out of it. That almost, if you could go to a system like a Cesc Fabregas to a Como, where you can tell that there's going to be some more, the system's set up for them to play out of pressure through passing, not necessarily dribbling. Now, dribbling's there if you need it, right? You can always pull it out of your back pocket. Only a handful of players can do it consistently. And I think Yunus falls into that category of playing out of pressure with passing. Is I think an area of his game that still has room
I would love to see Yunus Musah go to Como.
That'd be amazing.
And learn, because there's few coaches who can actually teach you the position that you played because they played it. Very few.
Yeah. That would be a great
at the
job.
highest
I hope that
level.
happens.
Woo!
Let's manifest that. Let's get that going. Let's get a campaign going. Musah to Como. That would be amazing.
Yes.
All right. Last thing before we let everybody go. The Gold Cup quarterfinals have been set, and we are going to give our predictions. Okay, so we have U.S. versus Costa Rica, Canada versus Guatemala, Mexico versus Saudi Arabia, Panama versus Honduras. Panama looks really good, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. I'll go first. I'll say U.S. gets past the Ticos. We're going to take on Canada in the semifinal because it's written in the stars.
Give me that all day.
All day. Mexico will beat Saudi Arabia. Panama will beat Honduras. And then we have our Nations League Final Four. Mexico, Panama. That one's going to go to penalties.
We're picking the whole bracket? Or just
all right, let's do quarterfinals. Mexico, Panama, and U.S. Canada. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay.
I'm not going anywhere past the semifinals because
that's fine.
Costa Rica is going to be tough enough. We're trying to. You can't even. You can't go further.
So U.S., Canada, and Mexico, Panama. That's what I got. I think we're going to have the Nations League revisited. That's where are you guys? Tones, where you at?
I'm the same way. Just for me, the U.S. is going to win in extra time. I think there's extra time still in this round, right? So They win. They're 1-1 after regulation, and they win it.
Okay, I love that.
I think it's going to be 2-1 US in a close game, but I think it's 2-1.
Okay, and what about Canada, Guatemala? You got everything the same?
Yeah, I got Canada, Mexico, and Panama. Same as you. I think you had that, right? That's
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we're all.
Well, there is no extra time in the quarterfinals, so we're going to win
time.
it. We're going to win it in penalty kicks, then, Jimmy. Sorry, I'm going to change my prediction.
Straight to pens. Matt Freeze stepping up, save some pens.
Hey, Gordo's coming at Ivis because Ivis loves to throw out the stats of being age appropriate. Oh, he's only 20, and Gordo just killed Ivis. He said, "What?" He said, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, he said he's only 22. 2 years ago, he was 20. Last year, he was 21. Gordo, get him. Get Ivis.
Ivis taking some
Ivis
shots.
He's met his match right now. He met his
match. Gordo going after
Unbelievable.
Ivis. I like it.
All right. That's it. I'm calling it a show. As a reminder, we're going to have a live watch along for the quarterfinal. U.S. versus Costa Rica kicks off at 7 p.m. on Sunday, but we're going live at 6:45 p.m. Eastern. On Sunday, we'll talk about the starting 11, and then we'll obviously
happy birthday, Chuck. Don't forget.
And then happy birthday, Chuck.
No, thank you.
Chuck turned 46? Chuck, what was it?
You look great for 48.
You look great.
Thank you.
Absolutely great. Happy birthday to Chuck. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to Eddie Pope, and thanks to everybody that are watching and supporting us like always. Later.